Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining this discussion today involving interviewing with open source companies and utilizing the open source community to up-level your job search game. My name is Jennifer Newman. I live in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, and I help my friends at Scarf remotely with recruiting needs. I've been a full lifecycle recruiter for over 10 years, handling anything from new college grad openings to highly technical engineering positions, all the way up to management level roles. Within the last 7 years, I've been directly involved with the open source space, working primarily on technical positions for companies such as Scarf, HashiCorp, Red Hat, and Percona. And I'm super thrilled to be joined by my friend Christie Allen today. Christie, tell us a little bit about you before we dive into the conversation.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, I'm Christie Allen. I've worked in the HR space for nearly 10 years, the last 7 or so specifically tied to talent acquisition. I was a full lifecycle recruiter at a large Fortune 50 organization where I focused on recruiting across different technical roles, and most recently working directly in the tech space at a smaller organization, sourcing talent across engineering and leadership functions. I'm really excited to chat with you today about this open source interview process and how you can use open source to really up-level your job search.
Yeah, me too. It's definitely a unique job search market, to say the least. Lots and lots of changes in the last year or so. Lots of people on the market looking for jobs. So I thought it'd be interesting to share some tips on how job seekers could really leverage the open source community to stand out against the competition. From ways to optimize your resume and LinkedIn profiles to also navigating the interview process and some resources viewers can use to get started. Christie, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role and how you select prospective candidates to reach out to?
Yeah, I'd love to. So in my role as a sourcer, I get to partner with different recruiters on harder to fill technical roles that are really niche. And I spend most of my time looking for candidates in different places and then engaging with them in hopes to set up like a phone or a Zoom interview. Some of the best places I find candidates are through LinkedIn, GitHub, Twitter, Medium, and other social media platforms. And also, especially right now, any layoff lists that I can get my hands on. Specifically for tech roles that have open source experience, I'm going into GitHub and then I'm looking at repos relevant to the roles that I'm working on, like a Kubernetes repo or any repo for the products that we're working or we hire for. It's pretty easy to see who's contributing or forking or following repos when you're in GitHub. And I can also look at like top contributors to the repo, see who is following them, who they're following. And then these little breadcrumbs really lead me to some solid candidates. This is super important for candidates who are struggling to demonstrate on the job experience, in my opinion, because you can go out and contribute to different repos or, work through personal projects that would then demonstrate those technical skills. Sometimes it's slower for me to find candidates like through GitHub that way, but if you have a completed GitHub profile that links to like a personal website or something identifiable to you, it does make it a little bit easier. So that's kind of like my tip for job seekers. If you're looking, like fill out your profiles in different places and it will help recruiters find you and be able to reach out to you in that way. But if you don't, there's other ways to be able to find candidates. And then another key area to the job search I really feel strongly about is around networking. So think about the people that you know that might work at a company that you're applying to or interested to work at. And then think about reaching out to them to have a conversation to see, would I even really want to work at that company? And most organizations have formal referral programs, so it could be an opportunity to get that referral into the org. Although I will caveat that with, I do not recommend just blindly asking for a referral from someone you don't know. I think referrals are best used when it comes from someone you know and someone you've worked with.
100% agree. And it actually reminds me of something that may be underutilized in the job search that I would recommend, which are coffee chats. For example, if you know you're dying to work for, this specific company as a senior engineer at XYZ, organization on a specific team or department, see if you can find someone in your network or outside of your network, send them a request for a 15-minute coffee chat. I think you really have to use the ask wisely, though. So be intentional about who you reach out to, tell them exactly why you reach out, and have a couple of questions in mind to frame the conversation. Send it to the person and honor your commitment to keep it short and on the point. Networking is so important. And I think in this, kind of wild market right now, getting creative, connecting, reaching out to people in various ways can only help you. Okay. So with, the networking and the coffee chats, it'll help you understand like whether or not this role is actually a good fit or not. So it can also kind of give you an idea of like what skills you might need to sharpen up before applying.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think coffee chats are a great way to really expand your network. And like in a way, it could be kind of like reverse mentoring because you may have knowledge to share with that person that you're reaching out to that would help them in their job search or their career or anything. I mean, it's really a mutually beneficial process. So great suggestion, Jennifer.
Yeah, of course. All right. So kind of moving back to getting to the first phone interview with the recruiter. So here are some things I think job seekers can do to stand out. Okay. All right. So take some time to review the job posting and your resume so you can ensure your resume reflects those key qualifications. You may have that experience, but if it's not listed on your resume, it's really hard for recruiters to have conversations with every applicant. So it's super duper important to take the time to make sure your resume matches up. So if your resume doesn't have that experience and you actually do have that experience, put it on there, okay? Also, list out some projects you've been working on where you've demonstrated some of the key qualifications on your actual resume, okay? Put your social profiles on your resume, such as your GitHub profile, your LinkedIn, a personal website, Stack Overflow, anything you think in terms of a hiring manager would like to see to learn more about your candidacy for a role. Believe me, they want to know what you're doing. They want to look at those sites. They want to see the depth of those projects. They want to see kind of like what tools you've demonstrated and used. But, in terms of that, refrain from listing your personal social media profiles unless you're applying for a role specifically that demonstrates your social media skills, like a social media manager or a community marketing manager. In those situations, yes, put it on there.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And thinking more about like the process. So once you have a candidate that you want to reach out to for a conversation, Jennifer, as a recruiter, it's just a little bit different than my process as a sourcer, but pretty similar. I think the one like difference is I'm cold outreaching to candidates, and a lot of times they're not responding on the first outreach. So I have to keep pretty close tabs on people I want to talk to, and oftentimes have to send follow-up messages. And sometimes that's through different platforms. So not just like an email or LinkedIn message, it's DMs on Twitter, like anything like that. And I know that my outreach is sometimes annoying, but I just want to share this too. Like usually the hiring managers are very interested in me connecting with you in particular. So even if you just reply like, hey, thanks, not interested right now, I'm totally cool with that. Usually I'll ask if I can reach out again in 6 months, or like if you may know someone that I could reach out to that might be interested in this role. But I totally appreciate replies, even if the answer is no or not right now. But if a candidate is interested, I will go ahead and set up a phone screen or a video screen, whatever the candidate's comfortable with. And the format of the conversation really is similar to a recruiter phone screen, where I'm asking some behavior-based questions related to the role. I'm understanding what the candidate wants to do next to see if this even is a good fit for that person. And then clearing out like compliance questions, like compensation, et cetera. And then really just prepping them for the next step in the process.
I think that's great. I think once we get candidates to the recruiter screen, it is a great opportunity for both passive candidates and active candidates to showcase their skills and experience that aligns specifically to the role. Like, for example, if you are active in your search, it's a great idea to keep track of the roles you're applying to, like saving the job descriptions, because sometimes they get pulled down before you're through the process, and having that info readily available is important, okay? If you've contributed to an open source project for that company, call it out. If you follow a top contributor, call it out. The more you give us that demonstrates your competencies and experiences related to the role, the easier it is for a hiring manager to visualize you in that position, which is the ultimate goal of the recruiter screen.
Totally agree. And I think that brings us to the next step in most processes, which is what everybody's wanting to get to, right? That hiring manager interview. Super exciting step in the process. And I think if I had to just share 3 pieces of advice, my first would be to really partner with the recruiter or sourcer that you're working with. Honestly, like, we're just as invested in you being successful in the process as you are. So if you feel like you're not getting any prep for that hiring manager call or any advice, like, just ask the recruiter, ask the sourcer, what should I expect? Who am I talking to? Any tips and tricks to, like, get through that conversation, anything you could review or research ahead of time. Number 2 would be to do your own research. So go out there, look up the hiring manager, research the company and the guiding principles, their business model, go out and look at the GitHub repos, see what's going on with the company and the products that they offer. I think that'll give you a kind of a leg up in that first conversation. And then number 3, maybe not so popular right now, but people are using ChatGPT in ways that will help you prep for interviews. So, like, you could go out and ask for sample interview questions, and then what would be a good answer. You might need to review that yourself, to audit that if it's a good answer or not. But as a recruiter, I do tell candidates to try to think back on their top 5 accomplishments that relate to the role that they're applying to, and really try to craft some answers in the STAR format around those accomplishments, using metrics and data to support why this was an important achievement for not only yourself, but also the company and the team. So thinking kind of big picture. And most of the time, you can use one of those examples for any interview question that you're asked throughout that hiring manager conversation.
Those are so great, Christie. Yeah, and I would just emphasize partnering with the recruiter. We really advocate for candidates. The more transparent and open you are with us, the better we can advocate for you and help you prepare. Some other things that could be good would be even offering solutions or suggestions to a specific problem in the company's open source project, and giving that to the hiring manager in the interview. However, use caution with that, because you really need to make sure you really understand that project and have depth in that area before advising on a potential solution. Okay, so if you've got the depth, if you have the expertise and knowledge, if you have the passion and you're excited to share, do it. Just use good judgment there. Okay. Even if you don't have experience just yet in that project or depth, but gosh, you've been following them and you're super excited about the projects that you see and you want to do that kind of work, share that. I mean, companies want to see that you're connected and passionate about what they do and what they represent and where they're looking to go. Okay. Another great suggestion that I would love to give to you is demonstrate humility consistently throughout the process. Seek feedback and input from others, collaborate with others on your team and outside your team, showing that you're able to receive feedback and implement changes. If something breaks, that you don't take it personally, but view it from the perspective that feedback is for the greater good of the project, the team, the collaborative outcome of the organization and project, right? Showing that you understand that, okay? Demonstrating your ability to work and collaborate cross-functionally, whether that's cross-functional departments or teams or groups, as well as geographically, right? Like, a lot of open source companies have team members globally. So showing that you have that experience, or that you want that experience, and that you're flexible, and that you can work with different people, whether that's departments, function, or time zones, definitely share that, okay? Also, always have a few genuine and thoughtful questions for the end of the interview, okay? It can be related to the team's short-term or long-term objectives? What does a team's footprint look like? When do we collaborate together as a team? Is there time for, personal development projects? What do you genuinely want to know about the role, this department, the leadership? Maybe it's about benefits. Whatever it is that you want to know to continue to evaluate if this is a good position company for you, ask it.
Yes, definitely. Those are great ideas and really key things to remember. I think just looking back on our conversation so far is like really partner with your recruiter. Also, just be yourself and then also be humble. Yeah. So this has been like a super great conversation with some good tips to really maximize your potential in this space. And I think there's one thing you and I agree on, Jennifer. It's that the beautiful thing about open source is that it really transcends the corporate structure. Titles don't matter. Ideas are always welcome. And anyone at any level can present exciting and challenging, disruptive ideas that can really drive a business or idea forward. And it's really just all about innovation and sharing and making things better for everyone.
100%. 100%. Christie, thanks so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure. For our audience, we have some great resources for you to leverage, links to the Linux Foundation events page. Check out, the different events in terms of open source. We have a link for the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, which has a free job board for job seekers. So definitely check that out. We'll also include a link to Cloud Foundry. We'll also include a link to WellFound. And then, also check out like local meetups in your area. That's a great way to connect with open source groups locally. All right. So thank you again for joining us, and everyone have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon.